What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back in more, and I know. Lately, I've been having a lot of videos that are basically condensed versions of the live stream that most of you have probably already watched. Now, the thing is, I still actually have a couple different individual clips that I do want to end up taking from that stream. You know, my first impressions of Crystal 5, my thoughts towards it, and stuff like that. But this video I wanted to have for you guys now that I have a bit more of an understanding of Crystal 5 gear. So of course, you know, I'm still going to cover everything. You guys know how it is. I've been doing this for years. So the main point that I'm getting at is doing those kind of like VOD clips gives me the opportunity to stock up other videos and, more importantly, to grind stuff. Namely, there's like the costumes in the game that require like dragon starfire fragments and junk like that. But I thought that we would have a designated video so that I could talk with you guys directly about Crystal 5, how it's going to end up possibly affecting the game. I'm not going to end up going into the crafting cost and all of that stuff. Like I'll just skim the surface because all of that is subject to change because we are on the test server, of course. Now, first of all, when does the update come out? No official word. The only thing that they said was March. So we know that the St. Cubeslick event comes next week. So fingers crossed that's when this update comes out as well. And for those of you on console, the update might be sooner than you think because, again, this is just a guess. I'd say that the bamboo dragon that is currently on PC, the devs did say that you guys would be getting it on console. And this dragon actually has a time limit. You can only grind it up to March 31st. So I'm suspect that the reason you guys still haven't gotten the bamboo dragon is they're going to release the bamboo dragon with the Crystal 5 update. I hope. But anyways, what the update actually entails is there's going to end up being this new merchant over here, or not merchant, but a new profession. So he's going to end up being the Gearcrafter, as we had expected. And Crystal 5 gear is just going to be thrown into the loot pool. You can just grind it out of dungeons and stuff. It can still just be a random drop. There's also a new type of gear box that we'll tackle in a moment. Because first and foremost, let's deal with this guy. So first of all, these are a scam. All of these items are an absolute scam. It's just another one of those things where the devs clearly do not have an understanding about the in-game economy and value of these items, because they don't actually play the game. Sorry to say, devs, but it's true. Like, these are ridiculously overpriced considering what little you actually gain from it. So we'll just ignore these for now, and I'll talk about them later because it's related to the gearbox. Now, there's a bunch of other things too. There is block element. This is going to end up being an item used for crafting with the Gearcrafter. So you can buy 5 of these, I assume, every day. Doesn't seem to say, which is odd, but maybe it's just 5 in total and then that's it. You can get the gear crafting table, but then there's another crafting table as well. So in the end, you're still going to have to come to the hub. And then more importantly, there's all of these molds. Now, just to give you guys a number off the top of my head, the Gearcrafter molds for the face and hat, you can see are cheaper in the flux pool. So if you end up just crafting face items, to max out the profession, let's say, hypothetically, it costs you something like 350k flux. However, if you constantly craft weapons, it's going to cost you double that. So it's roughly like 600k or something like that. So just to keep in mind, you don't really want to use the weapon molds until further along. But even so, these molds are kind of worthless at the end game, as you'll see momentarily. So this is the main gear crafting table. And as you can see, it costs various resources, fairly cheap, except it costs the new block element and the molds. Now, the molds have a vague description that says you can obtain these by loot collecting face equipment items with 3 stars or more. Now, near as I can tell, it has to be a piece of gear that drops that's already at 3 stars. You can't forge something to 3 stars and then loot collect it. Even so, it seems to be completely random. Like, this description needs to be fixed before it goes live, because it's inaccurate and it doesn't explain it properly. I don't think it will be fixed though, frankly speaking. And then of course there's the block element, which is obtained by loot collecting equipment, it says, which also is a little bit vague, as you'll see momentarily. I don't know if, you know, it could just be test server issues. But anyways, so we would craft a bunch of items here, bunch of items here. You know, the resources slowly become more and more expensive, as you can see. Including pentasouls and so on and so forth. This is where it starts getting a little bit annoying because this is Ashen Waste resources and just basically 2 Sundered Uplands resources, so that's kind of annoying. And then the final one is going to end up costing a Pure Forge mold, which again, the description is not clear. I honestly don't know where you get this, because I haven't gotten one as a drop. If it is a drop out of the new boxes related to gear crafting, it's extremely expensive, or sorry, not extremely expensive, extremely rare. But we'll hang on to that and put it up on the, you know, we'll leave that for now. So then over here, once you end up maxing out the gear crafting, then you can end up going into here, which it looks like they've actually touched this up since I last saw it, because originally it borrowed art from the star chart, but now it's actually different. So you can see that it is essentially going to end up giving us various buffs as we upgrade it. As far as I know, it just costs the block element. I think these are the rewards, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Maybe you don't get those as a reward and those are additional costs, but essentially you can do this, which upgrades Crystal 2 will be available in the forge for crafting. Crystal 3 will be available. Crystal 4 will be available. The interesting thing is that you not only have to have, as you can see, the previous upgrades, but you also have to have a certain amount of power rank. So 15k being the earliest that you could access Crystal 4 is pretty insane. Granted, the resources to craft it's probably really, really bad. Now, each of these subsequent things, they're pretty bad, but adds a 2% chance at obtaining a Gearcrafter's Vault whenever crafting a recipe, adds a 1% chance, adds a 0.5% chance. That's not how things work, devs. It needs to be 2% each, or start low and go high, because otherwise it is diminishing returns and makes it less and less valuable for the cost investment to even bother crafting these, like to even bother upgrading. It's just stupid. This one makes it so that the Gearcrafter's Vault, you'll get more of them, I guess, for completing dungeons. As of right now on the test server, it seems like you just get them from every dungeon. So I don't really know what this percentage is for, unless they plan on just nerfing it like crazy before it goes to the live server. Again, it follows the exact same thing where it just gets worse and worse values. And then lastly, receive 1 Gearcrafter Vault each time you open and receive a lucky roll. Now, I find it funny that whichever developer put that description in, maybe the game's raw code refers to triggering karma as a lucky roll, but nowhere in the game is it ever referred to as a lucky roll, and players just call it the karma bar. So again, another description that I think they should touch up. But either way, so it increases Gearcrafter's Vault given by Vaunted Vaulter, whatever the heck that is. I guess that's just this. Yeah, I see. So essentially you're just getting more boxes for unboxing more boxes, which, yeah. So ignoring that, let's actually hop into an Uber world just so I can do a dungeon really quick for you. There is no U12 or anything like that. I'm going to have another video that's going to kind of express my thoughts towards Crystal 5. And the lack of impact that it actually has on the game. But for right now, let me just complete a dungeon really quick. So we complete a dungeon, open the box, and suddenly we've already got 2 of these bad boys. Now these are going to end up being a very, very interesting loot box in the game, because these can actually drop Crystal 5. However, they also have the key that we saw in the hub that the merchant sells, which will basically trigger karma. Now, from what I've seen from Karma, you can get like Crystal 4, Crystal 5, as well as like a couple other items. Generally, it's pretty good odds for me because of my power rank, because these boxes actually have a hidden stat value where it contains equipment, as it says, based on your current class and power rank. So It'll drop bows because I'm on the Shadow Hunter. It can drop face and hat as well. And if you want to get Crystal 4 or 5, you have to be at minimum 45 KPR. And in order to hit 45 KPR, you have to have Crystal 4. Unfortunately, Crystal 3 just doesn't cut it. Now, before you're like, throwing up your guts and thinking that that's stupid, don't worry, because this whole update makes Crystal 4 more obtainable for the average player. Like, you guys are going to be able to shoot up while all of us end gamers will just get the Crystal 5. Anyways, let me open these really quick just to show you most of the resources are kind of garbage. I'm also going to end up just showing you guys what the temporary crafting cost is of these items. And I do actually have a screenshot of a maxed out C5 that I can show you guys in a second. So the way that the Crystal 5 is going to work is, first and foremost, when you find them out of the boxes, they are 2 stars. I don't think they can be higher than that. The only way that you can get ones that are higher star value would be just getting lucky in the overworld. And the reason why this is super important is because the ones that you find in the overworld are essentially worthless, because you would essentially have to waste 2 levels of a crap ton of resources in order to end up getting to the same amount of stars that you would already have with one of these bad boys. Now, one thing that those of you that are very attentive might have noticed is that this Crystal 5 gear actually doesn't say it cannot be traded. I assume that's a bug. Crystal 5 gear that drops in the overworld seems to be tradable, but again, I think that that's a bug that the devs have just overlooked, because I haven't seen the patch notes mention it per se, but it does seem like they're trying to remove all of the messages that basically say like that these are tradable. So anyways, I'm just gonna say, if this goes live and it's still not tradable, no surprise. So looking at the Crystal 5 gear, you can see when I hover over it, what's the biggest stat increase? The light. This is only 2 star and it already has a light value increase, whereas a 1 star barely does. This of course is not pearled or anything like that. But the important thing is that the reason you will get this gear is strictly because of the light value and the slight PR boost. That's it. I think max PR is something like 47,600 or something like that. So we still don't reach 50 KPR. And then the stats are very minuscule. Like the boost that you end up getting out of these is just, it still adds up, obviously. But most of all, it's the light value that you end up getting. This is what a Crystal 4 bow stats are. And then this is what a maxed out Crystal 5 is, thanks to my buddy Kev. Shoutouts. As you can see, the physical damage actually goes up quite a bit. If I calculated correctly, we're only going to get 3 additional movement speed from a full set of C4 gear to a full set of C5 gear. And as far as upgrading these are concerned, oh my god, they're expensive. Now, prior to some recent changes on the test server, the numbers were 90,000 nitro and 36k forge fragments to get a full set of Crystal 5 gear for 1 character, assuming that the gear that you have is at 2 star value already. So that's more than double the resources that it costs to max out Crystal 4. It's ridiculous, especially the nitro. That's probably why you guys might have noticed nitro is spiking up in price. Save your nitro. It's going to end up being even more expensive when the update hits. But the thing is, there's actually a bottleneck. So I wouldn't actually recommend that you guys get yourselves super prepped for Crystal 5 gear, because buying nitro now is just going to be a mistake. I would wait for it to hopefully go back down in price, or maybe you should rush and get it right now. I don't know how to predict that. But the point being is that even myself, like, nobody's going to be able to max out Crystal 5 without putting in the grind time, because there's going to end up being this new resource, which is the tempered block element, which found rarely in Gearcrafter vaults. It's basically non-existent in Gearcrafter vaults. However, the description again is false, because it also has a chance to give you some of these when you are crafting gear at the Gearcrafter. And it doesn't seem to matter the tier of gear that you're crafting. So you could just essentially keep crafting the garbage gear to end up getting more and more of these. But you're still going to end up feeling a huge cost, most of all with the nitro. It's actually insane. Now, let's look and see what these suckers loot collect for. So as you can see, there's some of that new forge resource, but there is also a pretty decent amount of crystalline cores. As far as I know, they ended up nerfing the amount of crystalline cores, and as you can see, some of them just don't drop crystalline cores. These were the ones that I ended up unboxing, whereas these were ones found in the wild. So yeah, I don't know how much of that is just the devs making mistakes with little tidbits here and there, and how much of that is on purpose. But that pretty much summarizes it. What do I think about the Crystal 5 gear? Well, I'll have a video that'll go in more in depth, but honestly speaking, I'm okay with its implementation. My issue is we don't need it. We haven't needed anything that they've been adding in the more recent updates. They keep making players stronger, but we're still kind of waiting for that additional difficulty, whether it be U12 or something new and unique, but it's just not here yet. So copium that's the next update, because everyone was kind of expecting it to be the March update. But anyways, I'll have plenty of our videos that's going to cover all of this stuff, including all of the new costumes and what have you. So until then, I hope you found this video helpful. Smash the like, sub for more, buy the merch you want to support the channel, and have a wonderful day, everybody.